of mature behind him, and all his hopes ahead. A pride that beat with his young heart for all the things he did. As he stepped off the airplane, he stooped and kissed the ground, and he traded a war on foreign soil for one in his hometown. There was no love for the soldier limping back home from the fight. That old flag was stitched with more than blue and white, but we turned our eyes when the eagle cried. A generation later, we stand at war again. But I thank the Lord we've chosen now to honor faithful men. We can't forget to look back and give our gratitude to all the men who fought before and lived and died without their due. Love has come back for the soldier to carry him home from the fight. 'Cause that old flag, it flies with more than blue and white. So may tears fill our eyes when the eagle cries. Love has come back for the soldier to carry him home from the fight. God forgive us for the day we lost our sight and we turned our eyes when the eagle cried.
I do want to thank y'all for serving our country, because without y'all, we wouldn't have the freedom we have today. And it's a great honor. And again, y'all did thank me, but you don't need to. The thank them was enough when you served our country. Thank you. May God bless us.
coming into Dallas, the Dallas thing, that was incredible. I cried. I cried when we got to Dallas, got off the plane, and we had to walk through down the concourse onto this open area. There must have been over 100 people. All of a sudden they were clapping and yelling and, whooping and saying, thank you for your service. And I'm walking through there and I'm crying. I've got tears in my eyes. I can't, wow, that was tough. Experiencing that, I told one of my friends, I said, you know what? If we'd have had that kind of reception when I came back from Vietnam, I just wonder how different things would be today. I said, I bet you I wouldn't have PTSD because I would have had caring people that were interested enough to get me to talk about it. Not one person ever talked to me about what I experienced in Vietnam.
Oh yay! Arriving in the airport terminal from southern New Mexico, El Paso, the honor flight of southern New Mexico, El Paso, with veterans from Vietnam. God bless our veterans. God bless America. Land of the free because of the brave.
I'm crying. That was a wonderful surprise. I mean, it was something that I never would have expected.
In the stores, I see a guy wearing a Korean cap or a World War II, and I'd hug him and everything. But I said, why do you do that? I said, you don't know what the hell he went through, And I'm proud of him.
I was on the USS Coral Sea. It was an aircraft carrier. I did three tours. I was a jet mechanic. We were there when the last bomb was dropped on Vietnam. What they told us, war is coming to an end. We're going to drop one more bomb, and everybody on the ship got to sign that one bomb.
When I was probably 10 years old, I had a brother-in-law. He was in the Navy and he worked on the patrol boats on the Mekong River. And the difficulties he had after he came back, and I was still a kid, never thinking that 9 years later that the war would still be going on. So I joined the Air Force. Instructors said, hey, scratch off Vietnam, y'all ain't going. And I was retrained to work on C-141 aircraft. One of the things I remember most clearly, C-141 aircraft landing and caskets being rolled off the back of the aircraft. And that impacted me, and also my sense of purpose in what I was doing, even though I wasn't in Vietnam. And I think that not maybe survivor's guilt, maybe a sense of just I'm not worthy to be here with this group of people. My view of it now is I feel if I support, I did end up spending 30 years as a cop, and part of me feels like that might have made up a little bit. I've seen just about every bad thing anybody could ever see, short of combat. I'm honored and humbled more than anything else.
Spring of '69, when guys were going to Canada to dodge going to Vietnam, I was trying to get to Vietnam, and I suffered miserably from that bubonic plague shot. And it turns out when I got to Hawaii, the plane I was supposed to go to Namwan, orders changed. It went to San Diego, to North Island, broke down, never came back. I wound up doing the whole tour in Hawaii. But when I moved to New Orleans, they didn't have any jobs for me, so I said, what am I supposed to do? Navy guy says, well, you're an electrician, go talk to the Air Force. Okay. In fact, one time I got a phone call from Air Force headquarters, and the guy says, hey, Joe, want to go to Germany? I said, sure, man. He said, I'll cut you some orders. I thought he was joking. Had come orders for me to go 6 weeks on a construction project. I did it in 3 nights. I was there 6 weeks. I fixed all the lights in the school, the commissary, the exchange. In 1980, when it looked like the Russians might be invading Western Europe, my colonel tasked me to write and teach a course in basic combat for civil engineers. I was the first one in the Air Force to do that. And my course, I guess, now is taught Air Force-wide.
Actually, it was March of 1962 when I signed up. We were told that anything and everything was to stay in Vietnam. Everything was going to be censored. Anyone caught saying anything about what was going on in Vietnam, it was an automatic trip to Fort Leavenworth Stockade. When they hear that I was there in '63, they say, oh, that's when nothing was going on in Vietnam, because they didn't know. Everything was censored, you know. I was carrying the embassy pouch, and I was flying all over Vietnam every day. I never knew what was inside. Not until about 6 years ago, what I realized was everything that was transmitted was encrypted. The encryption was by means of a paper tape. In order for us to send to one of the outposts, they had to have the same thing. After the 5 or 6 months, I started working at the communication center at the embassy. That's when I saw for myself what was going on, because we would get casualty reports and status reports. It's an interesting day when they overthrew the Diem regime. There was bombing all over Saigon. And then when Kennedy was assassinated, I happened to be working at the communication center, and I was stuck there for about 2 days. Benoit is where we had our microwave tower, and anytime there was a threat, we were called. And that one night that we went, it was very dark. We were in position around the site, and we were instructed nobody fire until I give the order. At one point, I thought I saw something move in front of me, and then I saw it move again. When I saw it the second time, I fired a shot. And that's the only thing that I remember about that night. After I fired that shot, I don't know what happened. Not even how we got back, when, or... I actually disobeyed the order. What I can't understand is why I was not punished for it. And there's no record of what happened. Could have been something that just made me lose my mind, shut down or something. My loss of memory still haunts me because I want to know what happened, you know.
When I was in Vietnam, I was up in Phu Bai, out towards the DMZ. I was stationed there for a year. When we first landed there, besides seeing body bags, so I actually went to sleep in one of the bunkers. The next morning when I got up, the other guys asked me where I slept. I pointed to the bunker. They said that they found a 8-foot cobra in there. I said, well, it didn't bother me, so I didn't sleep there in the bunker, though, the rest of the time. I was a radio and a radar operator, mechanic in the nighttime, looking for any movement out in the wires. I remember one time I did saw movement on my screen. When I decided it was humans, I went downstairs and told the commanding officer there that I had movement, and it was coming towards the fence. He must have been new, because he told me it must have been a water buffalo. I said, no, it's not a water buffalo, it's people moving. It's a difference. 5 minutes later, there comes a motor around and hit about 100 yards away from it. I went back downstairs and I told the captain, I said, I didn't know water buffaloes had motors. When I came back, talking to the shrink, so I finally asked her, I said, you're about 25, 28 years old. You was not born at the time we was there, so what makes you think that you can help us? What do you know about us? You know, what do you know about the war? And her answer, well, I watch a lot of movies, and I don't think nobody likes to talk about what happens over there. That was Las Vegas. What happened there stays there.
I joined the Army, deployed to Vietnam. I was with the chopper unit. We were the one that transported the infantry and supported them. It's a crew of 4, the 2 pilots and the 2 gunners. The year that I was there, we lost 2 crews. I was monitoring the radio. They ran into enemy fire and the choppers blew up in the air.
I went down and joined the Navy. 5,000-man crew and is a nuclear-powered ship. Then went to Vietnam and working with the photography, targeting, and bomb damage assessment. One of the Air Force planes was shot up, landed in the target area, and that was a priority to bomb the U.S. plane to destroy it.
Combat veterans from the field aren't the only ones with a 1,000-yard stare. Doctors and nurses have it too, because they're much as being in combat as the soldiers who are on the field as us. One night, after I was the last one to leave the battlefield, as I lay on the operating table, the doctor said, "Lieutenant, you must have had a bad day and a number of wounded and killed from your company." I said, "Well, not as bad as yours, I suppose." "Why do you say that?" The fact of the matter is that you go through long periods of time without contact. And then when you do have contact, we witness the unbelievable, perform the impossible, and do the unthinkable. There's always somebody in contact. Doctors and nurses and hospital staff see this the wages of war virtually every day. And sometimes they lose. They can't mend the broken bodies. They lose their patients. Who gives comfort to them? Who gives comfort to them?
That's what freedom costs, a price that's paid. Our families who put roses on a grave, from those who wear the wounds of war.
Initially, I went in my brother's honor, but when I got in there, I actually liked it. We got a citation for helping out with the tornado victims, and another catastrophic thing happened. There was a huge airplane crash near Fort Sill, and they had 20 bodies, and that's when I became an honor guard. I went over and served 2 8-hour shifts guarding the bodies until the families could come and claim them. That was really a tremendous strain on me to not stand there for 8 hours, but to realize that those people were killed in a helicopter type accident. The forklift incident, everybody was going to lunch, all the military people were, so they asked me to climb on the forklift and go get a pallet of clothes. I was really gonna help everybody, I jumped on it and I didn't realize you had to have a driver's license to drive that thing. So I had all these little knobs sticking out. You know what they are. I figured I'd go find one that says go, start, something other, back up. So I got on it, picked up the pallet, and was really having a good time. Came back and couldn't get it stopped and went through the side of the building. The 2 forks did. And the civilians protected me. They backed it up where it was supposed to be and put a big box in front of it, so no one ever knew about it, I guess.
I decided to join the military because I didn't want to follow my sister's footsteps. And that was in 1972, so it was the Women's Army Corps. I chose the Army because I'm a plus girl. And the Air Force was very discriminatory with big-boned women. I met the weight, but because of my structure, they told me, well, if you could just lose another, I'm like, lose what? I'm not eating. And so they had their choice of how they wanted their people in uniform to look. And I was a little thick for them. And so we trained as medics. I got the first big assignment, which was Walter Reed, which I was very pleased with. My medical specialty, operating room specialist then, which taught us how to first assist surgeons, and we learned how to do all the surgeries. And let me tell you, Walter Reed had some surgeries. I did the Gulf War, 9 months. And we did training for all the people that were going to go to the front line, because I was going to different areas, especially Saudi Arabia. I was going to be in charge of some things, so like you had to get a clearance. And 10 minutes in the country, if you had to use the bathroom, you were not modest, because when they did make the toilet, it was like a box, and they would put 3 and a petition, so you could pass the toilet paper to your neighbor. You could see everything. And you got 3 minutes to shower. And when I say 3 minutes, we were locked and loaded with a weapon, and you would be escorted out, butt naked if needed be. So I was in Dhahran, because we had to keep our skills up, so we got to do some of the locals. It's a Muslim country. You cannot imagine doing surgery on a woman and her family coming in, and they're the only ones by law and by their religion supposed to see them undressed. So now we have to act like we're not ever going to undress her. We're just going to do surgery through her clothes and then wait for the family to go undress them after the surgery. We have to dress them just like they weren't undressed. So it was quite a few obstacles to go through just to do surgery. Women didn't speak. I was in charge, and when I went to go and get supplies in the community, I had to take my guys with me and then give them the list. Plus you had to be dressed. You couldn't have your hair out, you couldn't have your arms out, you couldn't have your legs out. You had to have everything down, or the military there would beat you. They'd have just a person that, even for their civilian people, they would just come up and just start beating you until you conformed. If a lady accidentally, some of her hair fell down, they would just go up and start beating her until she put her hair up. If a guy had whatever, they would just beat him until he conformed. And okay, I got it. It was that strict. And so for me to be out on the economy trying to get extra bins, whatever, and I'm saying, get the big one. I'm trying to get the big. Why do you talk to her? The proprietor of the store is looking at me like, why is she telling you what you need? And then she's our boss. The woman is in charge. So he comes over and he looks at me. You have the power to tell? I said, yes, sir, yes. Okay, tell them. He gave me permission because he got tired of us trying to figure out how to do sign language to do it. You totally appreciated America. And I tell people, Americans don't realize how good they have it.
Every 18 months or so, it's like tonic for the soul. To sit and have a beer somewhere with all the boys that were over there. Nobody's wearing army greens. We're all 22nd Infantry. We're the names not etched up on that wall. We all gave some, but some gave all. We're still fighting the battles.
Well, we had a brief firefight out in the field, and one of my guys got wounded, was dusted off, and one of the enemy was dusted off as well, and he was treated at the evacuation hospital. When our guy woke up, and across the little center aisle was the enemy, and my guy got out of his bed and was trailing his pillow, crawled over to where the guy was, and with his stand of IVs, and he got up on his knees and proceeded to smother the guy, and then the doctors and nurses came in and they went ballistic, of course. And then so when I to visit my guy, I was castigated. He says, you guys are just a bunch of animals, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait a minute here. He says, we're a bunch of animals? Let me explain something to you. These two guys did their utmost best to kill each other just a few hours ago. And do you think that stops? It does not stop. And you guys were very stupid in having him in the same war, everyone in a position to lose, instead of putting us in a position to win. And it says, that's your problem. It's not mine. I went home and I got the letter from Van and got killed on the border by a sniper. What makes it so tragic is that in 2 days, he and Annie were going to get married and come home together. And Kent sent me the letter and the notification at that time. That's when I stopped communicating with anybody who's in Vietnam. That broke my heart, and it still breaks my heart talking about it. He had so much to live for, and he didn't know it. And it was till it was too late.
We're at Fire Support Base Don. I was a Medical Service Corps officer in charge of 34 medics. I had just been there for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and I'd just gotten my hooch squared away. I had a a 4-foot wide culvert with a bunk, and the culvert was covered with 2 layers of sandbags. An aid station was built, made of railroad ties and a layer of PSP, protective steel planking, and 2 layers of sandbags buried in the ground. We had to go down 4 or 5 steps to get into the aid station. Well, that particular night, I was awakened with incoming like crazy. I've got about 4 medics working on these 2 guys, and we're down there, and all of a sudden there was this tremendous kaboom, and the lights went out, and I had a flashlight with me, so I turned on the flashlight, and my flashlight beam went about 2 feet because of all the dust and dirt. We had taken a direct hit right on top of the aid station. We realized that one of the guys was probably going to die. He was in really bad shape. I had a medic stationed at the top of the stairs with his M16 just in case we were being overrun. He screams and falls to the bottom of the stairs. He got hit. All of this ruckus had blown out the communication link with the TOC, which was about 50 yards from the aid station. I needed to get somebody to call for medevac. And I said, I've got to run to the TOC. So I'm running like crazy. And man, there are mortars and rockets falling all around me, boom, 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 and the flashes are just going everywhere, and I'm running as fast as I can. I bounded down the stairs. We got to call medevac. I've got 3 patients. And then I ran back to the aid station. About the time I got to the aid station, I hear a helicopter. The one did finally die, but we've got 2 patients on litters. We're running toward the helicopters. I go up to the pilot's door and look through the glass, and it's my best buddy. I looked at it, all right, I know these guys are going to be okay now. You know, by this time I'm choking up, and wow, I'm doing it again. So I go back to the aid station. He gets out of there. So when it got light, we went out and started looking around, and there were 30 rounds that landed within 25 feet of the aid station. What in the world happened? Why did we? And then we looked, and here's the great big flag that was this big, a red flag, white cross in the middle. And it was standing up right next to the aid station. What a perfect, aiming point for the people out in the boonies, out in the jungle. The aid station's a perfect place to hit. That's a demoralizing thing for the troops. The aid station is supposed to be a safe place for soldiers to go.
We're still fighting the battles, even though there ain't no rifles in our hands. Those memories are bright as a candle, like those tracers in a place called Vietnam. Nobody cares about that war. That's what I've got my brothers for, to help me to remember and forget.
During the Cuban crisis, working at training Cuban soldiers that were getting prepared for that Bay of Pigs invasion, and this strike force was Cuban soldiers that had defected from Cuba to be going back for that Bay of Pigs invasion, since they were only sending Cubans back in, supposedly no American soldiers. 20-year-old boy wanted some more action, so I volunteered for Vietnam and was transferred to a place called Udorn, Thailand. This was a Royal Thai Air Force base that was being converted into an American air base. The reason for the secret clearance was that there was no what you call status of forces agreement between the United States and Thailand. There were not supposed to be any military people in Thailand, so they would issue you a passport and you were out there as a contract person.
I was a mama's boy, and I always wanted to take my mom. When I was a senior in high school, I never let her know that I enlisted in the Marines. A couple of weeks down the road, lo and behold, guess who's at the house? The recruiter. And when I walked into the door, I could have so my mom was nice. She waited until after he was gone, and then she said, why didn't you tell me? Because, Mom, I didn't want to hurt you. Then I was sent to Vietnam. I was wounded in Vietnam, and I didn't tell my mom. 2 gentlemen from the military went up to the house again. And they talked to my mom, and they told her that I was doing fine, and she didn't know what they were talking about. Next thing I know is a company commander says, you need to go see the chaplain. And then the chaplain got a hold of me and says, have you talked to your mom? No, sir. He says, well, you need to give her a call.
Went in country as a helicopter mechanic and constantly pestered everybody to become a flying crew chief and door gunner. Finally got that assignment when the guy in front of me failed to check his air filters one day. Somebody had sabotaged his aircraft. Somebody dropped an M60 round inside the air filters. The pilot fired it up the next morning, pulled that M60 round through the engine and just, of course, just spit parts out the back. So 3 days in, we landed in an LZ where the bad guys were waiting for us. Local gentlemen stood up out in front of us and fired one round. The round came through the front bulkhead. That round went through the man's pedal without hitting his foot, went through the cyclic stick between his legs, glanced off the armor plating right under his thigh, and that round had been slowed down enough that it went up in, shot him in the butt, basically, okay? So we pulled him out, laid him on the floor in the back, collected just a buttload of bullet holes on our way out, these guys shooting at us as we left. And the pilot's laying down here with his head in the crook of my ankle as we're heading back to base, and he's starting to smile. And I think, oh my God, he's going into shock or something. And I go down, pull my helmet to the side and says, what? He says, how's the family jewels? I said, I don't want to look, man. That's not my business, okay? You'll have to let the medic figure that out. 9th Infantry called and said, okay, y'all come get us. We found 4 American 105 millimeter cannon rounds set up as booby traps. My pilot found the 5th one. I was the only one on board a helicopter hurt, but we lost a bunch of 9th Infantry guys. We had 2 killed and 12 wounded in that crash. After getting pulled out of that LZ, I did 2 years in the hospital. Woke up one day in the hospital married. How did that happen? I have met y'all this week. Y'all are some of the most accomplished people, and I felt like I had left early and let y'all down because I only did 90 days in country. Left the hard way, didn't matter. I love you. Appreciate it. I'm out.
The drill sergeant suggested that I applied for Officers Candidate School. That kept me at Fort Sill, and the plane that was going to take me to Fort Gordon, Georgia, crashed and killed everyone. So I was declined Officers Candidate School, sent to Vietnam as a sergeant. I became the assistant in the platoon that was responsible for convoying ammunition to outlying fire bases. So during the 2.5 months that we did that, there were 22 people killed by landmines, and they never hit our convoy. So I said, well, I'm going to apply for flight school. And I did that while in Vietnam, graduated in the top 5% of our class. Well, because of that, we were all offered attack helicopters. Cobras land where there's fuel and ammunition, and we have air superiority. Yes, I'll fly Cobras. We were covering the 7-man long-range reconnaissance patrols. So when they call for us, a team in contact, we're airborne within 2 minutes. It's not uncommon to sleep with your boots on. There was one incident where we were heading west to cover the convoy going through the Mengang Pass. And as soon as I came up the frequency, people were screaming. You know, and we kept track of their locations by bridge number. Well, Bridge 19 is east, so I turned around and I saw a plume of black smoke. Oh no. So they've blown up one of the POL trucks. They said, I need you to confirm that everyone is on the road. So I told my wingman, you take the north side of the road, started shooting. That caused the enemy to break contact because we were very deadly. We had a lot of ammunition on a Cobra. Reason I took the south side is because I knew up in the hills on the south side of the road was where the enemy was based. I had a visitor. He asked for Shamrock 2-4. I said, that's me. Well, I was the truck driver of that truck that was blown up, and I want you to know that because you were there, I was okay because I looked up the side of the hill and saw the man with the RPG getting ready to shoot. I got out of the truck and ran to the gun truck and hid underneath it. You guys were so fast getting there. I wanted to come thank you. I mean, that's... We had a new commander come in. We had 2 20-millimeter cannons, and he told me, I want one of those mounted on one of our Cobras tonight. I was en route to the Central Highlands. I'm up the long-range reconnaissance patrol's FM frequency, and I hear that there's a team in contact. And I've got a mechanic riding in the front seat, not another Cobra pilot. I told them, I have a new weapon you're going to really like. Which direction is the enemy? So they're in all directions. The 20 millimeter is so accurate, and the recoil from it slows the helicopter down. So it's not like diving, firing rockets. It's just really slow. With the 20 millimeter, I'm firing on the right side, and I said, gee, this is really accurate. So I went above the friendlies and back down the other side and then across the front. And they're screaming on the radio, where are you? Where are you? Because we normally don't fire all the way around them. I said, well, I told you I had a new weapon. It's keep doing what you're doing. We love it. When we were in D.C., I looked up the panel of the deadliest day of my second tour. It was August 28th, and W17 is the panel number. And I started reading the names from the top, and I only recognized one name. It was on the third line. But I wanted to show my respect by finding that panel when we were in D.C. And that meant a lot to me.
The first trip Uncle Sam sent me, I was sitting in my office in Alaska. The colonel called me in and said, guess what? This was Monday morning. You're out of here on Friday to activate a postal unit. We got on an airplane to go to Benoit Air Base. Every afternoon in the monsoon season around 2 o'clock, the wind and the rains would come and wipe us out. So we'd have to clean up that mess and start over. I volunteered for my second tour. I wound up at the air base in the headquarters of the whole business. General Abrams was the MACV commander. I handled the awards and decorations branch. I lived in a hotel that was leased by our government. And one night the bad guys threw tear gas into the courtyard, and it permeated up through the hotel. And we got the evacuation orders, and that was not fun. We had to go hold our breath and run down the stairs and hope nobody threw a grenade into the courtyard. That was a little unnerving.
I put in 2 tours down there. I was there 365 days, and I have 333 days of combat in. So 101st was known as the nomads of Vietnam. We were all over the place. When they needed someplace, we got to get in a helicopter and take off. And I says, I want to come. I want to stop all this, you know. I saw the names. I got one name with Otis Jackson. He had 2 weeks left to go over there, and he got a sniper hit him. And that hit me pretty hard because we put him in a stretcher, and we tried to take him out of the jungle. We couldn't find a place so the helicopter would come. And then he falls out of the stretcher, and God bless, it's just crazy. So finally got him out of there, you know. But people don't understand that when you're out there and your buddy right next to you gets killed, you know, and then it's all over in maybe an hour or so, and then they get him and they take him away from you. It's not like you're going to go to his funeral in a week or so and you can see him there and pay your respects. No, you take him away, he's gone. You got to stay there another 6 months, another year, and it's all in your head, you know. So it's not like you're going to see him anymore, you know. All I want to do is just, pray for him. And then my other 2 guys. So this is a closure.
All the stories, all the scars, how we sold it just as hard, how the blood we shed was just as red as the fields we left and the thoughts we dread running through our head.
I was assigned to the USS Pictor, a refrigeration ship, and we're like a floating grocery store. Our ship carried mostly frozen goods, beef, pork, chicken, and tons of ice cream, because Navy guys like ice cream. Our ship was under attack right during the Tonkin Bay Resolution. At 4 in the morning on sonar, they spotted some blips, which means that there were ships coming towards us. The North Vietnamese would have these speedboats like PT boats of World War II, and they would attack Navy ships with torpedoes. We didn't have any armaments to cope with those torpedoes because our ship would only make like about 20 miles an hour. It was an old ship from World War II. You're 19 years old, you're under attack. You don't know what's gonna happen. It's scary, it's scary. And my ship didn't have that heavy armaments. All we had was a twin 50, machine guns in front and 2 in the back, and that's it. We were always steaming by ourselves. The only bad part about that ship is I worked with as best as I am now, suffering from asbestosis as part of my disability retirement. You take the good with the bad. I love the Navy, I love my country, and I would do it again.
I met President Lyndon Johnson. He came to El Paso, and I said that, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I said, come Friday, I'll be in the Marine Corps. He took my name down and everything. And then when I was in Vietnam, I said, they gave me orders, and it was hush-hush. They let me take a shower, gave me clean clothes, new boots, and I said, where am I going? We landed in Cameron Bay, and I was a guard for the President of the United States. That was one of the highlights of my life. You know, I figured that he got it there from the day he met me in Five Points on Montana Street. And from Camp Evans, they sent me down to, it's Hill 674, I think it was. And for a month I was by myself. And I had 3 machine guns all around me. I would call in if I see movement. I mean, they would come, by once a week and drop some water and some food, and then they take off. To me, it wasn't scary, but at the same time, I think to me it got scary at night because I couldn't see who, and those guys could climb and not make any noise at all. Tet Offensive was 68. They hit us pretty good. Every time I heard, oh heck, and they're coming in. That's pretty bad. They hit us with everything they had, at least I think. We persevered, but we were fighters in their place. And they knew every little nook and cranny they can hide. I was real good with a rifle. Sometimes when we didn't have a sniper, they'll give me the sniper rifle. And I hope I didn't kill too many. Because they were fighting for their own reason too. I remember faces, but I remember names. That's what got me. And I could see the names, but they won't come to me. And I said, God, man. Waste of people. But I did touch the wall. I never thought in my wild dreams I'd see the Vietnam Wall. I had tears in my eyes. Hatred that I had inside me, I never showed it out. It's gone. It was like a closure.
All the stories, all the scars, how we soldiered just as hard, and how the blood we shed was just as red, just as red. We can't forget, don't forget, it's just as red.
That was such an unexpected honor, maybe the single most honor that I ever had as a Vietnam veteran.
It's an honor of a lifetime. I went and thanked every veteran that got on the bus for the privilege that I had to present the wreath on their behalf.
Mail call caught me by surprise. I had no idea you guys were going to do that.
A generation later, we stand at war again. But I thank the Lord we've chosen now to honor faithful men.
Believe it or not, I still haven't looked at everything. When I go see my son, because him and his wife and my 6 grandkids put their stuff in, and I wanted to be able to sit down and just share that moment. And I haven't been able to do that because it's that emotional. I know he's proud of me. I know his wife is proud of me.
Love has come back for the soldier to carry him home from the fight. 'Cause that old flag, it flies with more than blue and white. So may tears fill our eyes when the eagle cries.
And they started passing out envelopes, and I opened it and I started looking at it, and it's thank you for your service from an elementary student that drew a picture. A middle school student, a high school student wrote a paragraph thanking us for what we did, and we hadn't seen that before.
I know you didn't get a warm welcome when you returned from battle with this letter. I intend to thank you the way you should have been thanked years ago. I am proud that there are people like you.
God forgive us for the day we lost our sight and we turned our eyes when the eagle cried.
I asked my children, how did you find out to write these letters? And I said, well, that's top secret, Dad. You're beautiful. I think it made me cry.
In his boots stepping on to Normandy, glory, blood, and sand. I signed on the line and they put me on a flight, standing on the yellow feet, getting yelled at by the DI. A bunch of shaved heads in the mirror, so I shake mine to find my face. They dropped a man into the battle and left a kid there on the plane. Just me and the names on that wall. A sleepless night, a first light dawn, thinking about those who didn't come home. Then a man walked up in a Marine Corps shirt, an angel sent with holy words. Maybe he knew I was barely hanging on. At me and said, hey man, welcome home.
People didn't walk me home. I didn't give a shit about them either. I always kicked this boot black in the face. Didn't want to shine my boots. I told him I'd kick him in the face with these boots. It's all very strange, you know, for most of us Vietnam veterans, we've never had a homecoming. All those other years of being ignored. But this one, I really appreciated that someone who cares.
it's uplifting.
It was bad, terrible. I mean, we were the most popular group of people around at the time. It seemed like we were hated by everybody and their brother. Airports were terrible. There were demonstrations going on. It made me feel like I had probably made a mistake in trying to get on out there where we were apparently not appreciated by my country.
Verbal counseling and pharmaceuticals did not help me. The recognition that we were welcomed home, because we were not welcomed home. When you're walking down the street and somebody curses at you because you're in uniform, as we passed the first gate, she announced in a very loud voice, "Following me are 33 Vietnam veterans. Please welcome them home." Everyone at that gate stood up and turned towards us and started applauding. I was crying. And we're not even to the gate where we're going to leave for DC. I'm a different person because of that trip. My family noticed it. All of those things that I was carrying are in the past. That baggage was dropped, and now it's a mile behind me.
First time home from Vietnam, it was not good. People in the airport, thumbs down. That was quite a reception that we had at the El Paso airport. It was very uplifting. That's a good word, uplifting.
We support you today. And we outnumber those that somewhere else in America may not support you. But El Paso does support you. And we will always support you. The state of Texas supports you. The state of New Mexico supports you. We love you and we appreciate your sacrifice and we appreciate who you are.
Because of the hatred that was spewed or given to them by the public. So we couldn't even welcome veterans because of our allegiance to the military. And then everybody's like, you know, baby killers spitting on them and throwing stuff at them. And it's like, what is wrong with these people? These are still our American citizens. These are still our war heroes, you know. You didn't leave here. You didn't leave your freaking neighborhood and go do anything. You didn't see somebody blown to pieces in front of you. You don't know what these people are going through, and you're this hateful. Why you have to say welcome home? Because they were never officially welcomed home.
Where the bombs that killed my brothers, only God knows why, not me. This wounded warrior was sent back home to the land of the brave and free. We were greeted with indifference, bitterness and hate. We were dying for our country, but our country was ashamed. And when they built a statue, I was there standing tall. That's when I heard those simple words I had waited for so long.
Didn't think too much about it until 31 years later. I'm a psychology professor. This girl is going like this. She's on the top row. This student has just fallen on the floor and she's having a seizure. I'm going to run down the hall to get some help. I'm running down the hall, and there's this big atrium, has all of these potted plants that just go everywhere. And I'm running through this maze of plant material, and all of a sudden, I kid you not, I hear the bombs blowing. I see the flashes. They are all over the place. And I'm just, oh my gosh, what is this? I keep running as fast as I can, and the bombs are just going off, and the mortars and rockets are all around, and the flashing. Oh my gosh. And so I get into the place where the telephones were, and I'm walking back to the classroom, and I walk through this atrium, and I'm looking around. What in the world just happened? Oh my gosh. Whew. And I get back and I call my doc and go in and see her, and she said, "You just had a flashback." About 5 years later, I made a bad mistake of going to see American Sniper. Well, at the tail end of the movie, they had the flag draped coffin, and I started crying and just bawling my head off, crying. I mean, boo-hooing. Well, I go back to my shrink and she says, yep, now you're 100% PTSD. I'm here telling you, PTSD is as real as a heartache or a heartbreak or a heart attack. It's real.
I never told anybody for 45 years that I was a Vietnam veteran, not even at work and all that stuff. My kids never knew it. My kids never knew it. My wife tells me, you know, I'm not going to take you to the movies anymore. I says, why? There's a scene has to do with war. You cry. I said, well, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. People just don't understand. They don't understand it at all. Yeah, because I had it was like a mission to try to get myself rid of these, I guess we call them sort of demons inside of you and I figured now I tell my buddies that are on the wall goodbye, and the ones that the POWs name, I the one wandering in Vietnam, the good Lord would take them up. So hopefully this would be a closure for me.
Oh, we got thrown eggs, rocks at us, especially when we were waiting for a bus. It was a homecoming that we never got. The minute we walked in, everybody clapping, giving us something we never got. I want to say I was in La La Land because it was so beautiful. That was really, thank you. Not just for me. From the rest of the guys and women too. I'm proud. At first I wasn't. It took a long time to be proud of what I did.
Because now I know how it feels to be appreciated, what we did for our country. I never could imagine I would be going through something like that. Almost everybody with their phones, taking pictures, like if we were some type of movie star.
It was very emotional for me just at the beginning when the plane landed and everybody there was clapping and saying thank you and welcome home. And when I got out of the service in 75, people would spit in my face because of the conflict that was in Vietnam. And I felt like the time I spent over there for my country, nobody appreciated it. Now I feel a little closure on that because they were saying thank you to with people I didn't even know.
I was at the airport in LA in my uniform, and some lady spat at me. It was hard. No reception, like what we got at the airports now. It was terrible. The country sent us out there to fight a war that was very unpopular. But if it wasn't for veterans like myself, we wouldn't have the freedom that we have right now. Coming into the airport in El Paso, that was it. That was it. In the airport in Dallas and DC, to hear the people applauding, that was great. That was great. Finally say, welcome home. It was not good, it was great. It said to me, you're home.
Morning at the wall, I really got choked up. Nearly all those names, they were almost all of between ages 17 and 21. These kids never had a chance. The part that bugs me the most is that we've lost more Vietnam veterans to suicide than we did to the war. We've lost more veterans to Agent Orange than we did in combat. And to me, those names should be on the wall. Because those guys suffered. They may not have physical scars, but they're scarred inside.
He interviewed me. He said, can you explain in one word what this trip meant for you? I thought for a moment and I said, yes, completion.
For all those who are forgotten and never heard the words, they think that they don't matter. Let me be the first. Welcome home. Welcome home.
Mayor Oscar Leeser for El Paso. And so he said to me, "You are phenomenal, but let me tell you what's even more phenomenal. You know, I put my money in a lot of places for a lot of years." He says, "But nothing has given me more pride and a feeling of self-worth that I could share and actually have it shared back with me. The piece with the veterans for this honors flight has just totally changed my life." And I told him, I said, "Well, your participation, your support," I said, "I'm gonna do the commercial. Your mama would be proud," because that's his mom. His mom would always compliment him, and he goes, and I said, "And even if you didn't come and meet us, your presence was still there because we know who took care of this for us. And I thank you." He goes, "No, I thank you." Yeah, that was good.
Everybody's got their cross to bear, be it here, be it there. It's still around us everywhere. We're still.
My guardian, Chris, says, "I want to take Chris home. I want him to be my wife," you know.
Those memories are bright as a candle.
The men were so nice. They'd say, "Lady present," and I'd look around, and they were talking about me, you know? And I was like a little old 20-year-old kid. I didn't know anything.
To remember and forget all the stories, all the scars, how we sold.
So I've been a mental health counselor for the last 35 years, probably. And so you guys didn't know it, but I've been psychoanalyzing every one of you. And some of you, man, I tell you guys need help.
Even though there ain't no rifle.
Or two Memorial.
We're overtime.
Oh, overtime? Well, that's just like the goddamned Army.
Place called Vietnam.
Base where I was located had recently turned the fire department over to the Vietnamese. He had a helmet on, he had a very thick jacket on, he had trousers on, and flip-flops.
Ho Chi Minh.
So if we had rolled over and caught on fire, they wouldn't have stayed around.
Just as red. We can't forget. Don't forget. It's just as red.
I'd like to thank the Academy.